Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on Rock Metal Podcast, we have Catalyst, and they've just released a new single, You Got No Soul, via Dharma Records. Right now, I'm being joined by Elliot and David to share some more information about this release, as well as a potential EP that's coming up, I just heard, in a few months called Sparks. We're going to chat about a couple of tracks here, Sylvia and You Got No Soul, a music video for Sylvia, why she's on the beach, why the boys are looking cool on the beach. So, boys, David, Elliot, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Cheers, John.
Nice to
Absolutely great to have you guys on. And now, I guess my first question is, take us through this most recent single, You Got No Soul. And why have I got no soul? What's going on in this track?
You've got no soul. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's always, complicated when you need to explain your own sort of vibe in your song, because I've always come from a background of where you find your own insights with the music and lyrical content. It's all about feeling and how it makes you feel. I mean, I'm sure many artists have lots of reasons why they wrote their songs, through heartache or social sort of journalism and things like that at the time. I guess some of that is in there with us, but we much prefer our listeners to sort of figure out what it means to them. And I suppose, we do live in a time where people can be pretty soulless. So, maybe perhaps you need to stand in front of the mirror and contemplate a little bit about what makes you tick and see whether you've got a soul or not. The questionable actions that you've taken, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's a song about meaning and what does life mean and why we do it. And then you've got people who I guess are on autopilot. And I'm not saying I'm not one of those people. I'm on autopilot sometimes. We're all on autopilot. Sometimes we don't connect to what's really there. From everyone can bring their own on what a song is about. It's not about us saying this is it. It's just about us saying this you think.
Okay, I think I got some of that. Elliot, you play the guitar. Tell us about the creation of this track. Did it start off like a campfire song with like an acoustic guitar and built up from there? What went into creating?
No. I mean, I've got an acoustic, and don't get me wrong, I do love acoustics and things like that. But it's generally gets born out of sort of a noisy guitar in a room. I'm a big fan of that sort of quiet, loud sort of vibe. Grew up, sort of learning guitar, so at the early to mid 90s, and so I just kind of wanted to try and get a feel for that quiet, loud, chorus, verse sort of vibe of it. This one come together really quickly. I think, I think I brought a riff to the room, to the guys, and I think we pretty much just hammered it out in the room. It wasn't really anything sort of predetermined, maybe apart from the opening riff and maybe the chorus, because it's pretty much the same as the opening riff, just a lot bigger and a lot stronger.
The chorus,
yeah. I think it didn't take very long, did it, Dave? I don't think it took very long. Yeah, it's one of those, sort of took, a couple of minutes. I'll say a couple of minutes. 15 minutes to write the sort of 3.5 minute song sort of thing, and it's fun to play. It has a bit of a bounce to it and some orchestration in the middle section that we kind of like to do. We like to add a lot of sort of synthesized or strings. I think it's even got a horn section sort of buried in somewhere.
Like horns and brass in there. It's kind of like, even though it's a heavy track, there's some funk horns going on in there. We like to do something different, but it's not there in your face. It's just this.
No, it's very much guitar band based, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that at all unusual from any of the other tracks on Sparks?
No, I think that's kind of
I think there's a common theme.
Yeah, it's a big part of our sound, isn't it? To have sort of a bit of quiet, loud, big choruses. We try to go for big sort of anthemic sounding outros, and we do like to incorporate a lot of electronica behind there as well. So we have a lot of sort of synths, and we have dance elements, and deep sub basses, and it's a general theme to be sort of a big sort of rock band, but sort of still experiment progressively a little bit with the electronic side.
And we just want people to sing along, I think we have those hooks, sing along hooks,
Yeah,
some easy lyrics, nothing too hard,
Mm-hmm.
You can get them hooks.
Now, kind of another question, because I mean, invariably, almost the answer could be yes. But is this an entirely pandemic-based EP, or has some of these tracks been kicking around for a little bit longer?
A lot of the work was done pre-pandemic, I guess. A lot of the writing was done pre-pandemic, but a lot of the finishing touches was done during the pandemic, and especially some of the videos. So some of the videos we shot were in between lockdown, shall we say. When we could get together, we did get together.
Yeah, and even the recording.
So in many ways. The last 3 tracks were recorded.
We had to really like we couldn't all be in the studio at the same time, so we had to go in sort of. I think the guitarists went in with the producer so we could distance, because the studio wasn't huge, wasn't a big space to record in. And then Dave, you ended up going in on a couple of evenings on your own with just the producer.
Yeah. No, it was a different experience. I mean, we'd each go in individually in the studio on our own and not see the other guys. So that was happening quite a bit. So, I didn't see, God, I can't even remember how long it was. Probably, it was a good 6, 7, 8 months, wasn't it? We didn't see each other at all face to face.
Oh, yeah. And I think we did some of the sessions last October for some of these songs. I think it all come to a bit of a finish about that time. I can't quite remember. But yeah, and we needed to do some more sort of backing up vocals, and I did those in my home and sent them to the producer just to put into the session, because it was just so difficult trying to, get together or being isolated, that it was just probably quicker and easier if we just did it at home. And so Dave marked up what he wanted me to back him up on, and then I did it, and we kind of signed it off together, didn't we? Does this work? Is this okay? Is it a good enough quality? And it worked out sort of all right. Just some finishing touches from the house.
Did the producer make any recommendations about like purchasing microphones or any kinds of interfaces or anything for doing it at home?
Well, I do a lot of the demoing at my house, so I have a Golden Age Project ribbon mic and a Aston Stealth microphone. I got the most crappiest interfaces, like a Behringer, what is it, UHD 192. But I'm all set up here with Pro Tools and some really tidy sort of plugins for compression and things like that. And if it didn't work, then we'd have to find a way around it. But it worked from here anyway. I think Dave, you used the ribbon mic in the studio. I think I took it along with us, and it works quite well.
I don't know, man. I just turn up. Yeah. I don't take any notice of what's there, man. I'm not a techie person.
I've got
buckets. There's a gear anyway.
No, I have got buckets of gear in this room right now, John. It's just there's pedals galore, amps galore, guitars, basses. You can't see it, but it's all there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so since you're the techie guy, what kind of guitar sound were you looking for on this record? Did you get the sound that you had in your head?
Yeah, certainly on You Got No Soul, we kind of I use a Marshall 900. I do like those 90s sort of Marshall amps. And we got a Peavey. I wish it was a 5150, but it's a 6505. But it's some people would argue it's a lot of difference, but really it does the job. So we blend those two amps together. But for the intro specifically, I used an old DOD Punkifier from, again, I think like mid-90s. People absolutely slate them, but I love them. They're such a unique sort of sound, and it gives, you know, that intro, that bit of fizz and a bit of fuzz. Yeah, so I do like to experiment. Game Changer Audio plasma pedal as well for a fuzz, where it doesn't kind of use the old tube technology. It uses plasma gas to drive your signal. I've used that on the record quite a few times.
That sounds awesome, but it looks awesome as well.
Yeah, it's distracting when you play it. You've got this plasma gas going off, and you just kind of want to look.
Oh wow! Look at the lights.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, it's a fine line between, because we don't want to be a super heavy band, but we obviously got a bit of weight to certain parts, so it's nice to have it on those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned a couple things there that are obviously hot topics. Well, I don't know if DOD effect pedals are hot topics right now, but I know at the time in the 90s, I don't know how big they were, but it's definitely become a piece of nostalgia, I think, for a lot of
yeah. They're quite sought after, some of them, being the Buzz Box, which was, you know, the idea for the Melvins to have that sort of sound. Obviously the grunge pedal that Kurt Cobain famously tried and threw into the audience and hit a woman with because he was just not so impressed. And the Punkifier being like, you know, sort of that punk sort of which they didn't really sound like anything really, and they got slated at the time, but they do have a bit of a vintage quality and quite sought after pedals these days. I don't use them live. It's not something that I use live, but it's something that I like to play around with in the studio, or just think of, you know, sort of things to use to get that different sort of sound in the studio.
Yeah. And then the greatest debate ever. I have been told by Peavey in Los Angeles that the 6505 is the exact same amp as the 5150, but so many people don't believe that.
No. Like I said, I can't tell difference when I use it, man. You know, it sounds like a 5150. It's just got 6505 on there. You know, it's all to do with the Van Halen sort of rights and things like that. So I mean, who knows? To me, though, if you want some good sort of crunch and some good chugging, you can't beat 6505, 5150, whatever. It you know, it really does round things out and gives you some good tight, you know, sounds coming out of there. Mm-hmm. Again, it's not something I use live. You know, I stick to the 900 generally with I put like a clone, a Centaur, you know, Archer clone copy. Yeah, you know, just try to keep it basic. Sounds big. I mean, yeah, you know, it's good.
You wouldn't want to take a real clone. You probably wouldn't make it home.
Get hold of one, yeah. You know, that's the thing. Yeah. But again, these things, you know, they're kind of sought after. But I watched a YouTube clip. They did like a shootout of the best sort of clone copies against I think it was the Gold Centaur. And to be honest with you, a lot of them, you know, it is basic circuitry in there, and I know it's quite special, the clone, but you can get very, very close to it with these, you know, clone copies. You know? Yeah.
Another piece of trivia on that is it doesn't really get activated until you turn the knobs after a certain point, and a lot of people don't turn the knobs past that certain point. So from an electrical standpoint, when they say they hear the difference, they're making it up.
Classic. Yeah. But I think the most important thing is what works for you. So it doesn't really matter if some guy says, oh, you're not doing it properly. As long as you're happy and you do it and it works for you, I think that's the most important thing.
That's what I told Sylvia. So who is Sylvia? Take us through this music video.
Actually, exactly. Who is Sylvia?
I gotta be honest with you, John. This song was born out of a bit of a, the name of the song was certainly born out of a bit of a joke in the band practice room, where one of the members was working with a particular woman that was quite frustrating whilst training. And then I was writing this song with ideas, and I think I just labeled it Sylvia. And this was kind of before Dave joined. And because I'd labeled it Sylvia as a demo and sent it over to Dave thought that he would incorporate that working title into the chorus. And it works great. I mean, and what sort of Dave wrote about it kind of works all together. Which I'll let him explain if he wants to.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's really strange. I can sing about stuff, I can write stuff, but it's so hard talking about it, man. Because it's just like, when I'm singing it, it just comes out. But when I have to dissect it and when I have to say, this is what I'm on about, I can't do it. But, the song was a joke. It was essentially one of the boys talking about one of the girls. I say girls, an older lady he worked with called Sylvia. And I'm like, oh, God, no one's called Sylvia anymore. And actually, Sylvia is really cool. It's a real cool name, Sylvia. Yeah. Just wrote a song. The song's about, it's about, that kind of connection you can get with someone on a night out, on a one night out.
Yeah. It's not just like one night stands, is it? It's kind of like, recognizing, perhaps the failures in that relationship, or perhaps those relationships that aren't the best for you. They're a bit toxic, but you always end up colliding in some way. And that
that it's about relationships, I guess, where it's kind of intense, both good and bad, but it doesn't have that longevity.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a couple of Bryan Adams songs about one night stands.
It's not quite about one night stands. It's not quite that. It's just
it's kind of tied up into that sort of murky world of sort of partying and meeting people, and perhaps they're not the best people you need to be around, I would say. But it is exciting sometimes.
It's exciting. It's good for that moment, but but it doesn't work out.
But it can be quite destructive as well. And then I suppose the video really ties in a little bit with our other videos, because we've done 3 videos altogether for some of these songs, and we have kind of it's a bit of a common theme with them. And I've described it before because it's my sort of, I don't know, dark corners of my brain working, but a poor man's David Lynch. And it's the same character in all these videos. So, there is sort of a hidden narrative, or, maybe not so hidden. I don't know, really. It's up to you if you want to interpret it. But she's been in all our videos. Her name's Charlotte Scott, and she's a sort of fitness instructor and pole dancer. And she's just been epic at, we've set her on fire, we've pushed her in the ocean, and we've made her, dress up as a sort of a conjuring type demon spinning on her pole. So it's been a bit of fun.
I'd like to point out that she's actually fine. No harm.
She is fine. Yeah, we didn't set her on fire to the extent where she's not fine. But it was a good.
Let's be fair, Elliot. We set everyone on fire.
Oh, we did. We set ourselves on fire.
All the release forms have been signed. Fan freaking tastic. Okay, so we've chatted about quite a few things today. We chatted about You Got No Soul. Ending the conversation, chatting about Sylvia, the music video, which is available on today's show notes. So if you're tuning in on TuneIn or iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you're watching on YouTube, you can see how exceptionally good looking we all are. Or today's website, therockmetalpodcast.ca. You can see the YouTube link for Sylvia, as well as I have a Facebook page to link to you guys. Is that the best place to send people?
Yeah, we have Facebook, with Instagram as well, and I think there's a Twitter handle as well, which I think most of it is all catalyst.uk.
Catalyst.uk, I think, yeah.
Okay, beautiful. or just hit the Googles, and type in Catalyst UK. You gotta type in that UK. They are not from Japan. And these boys also have Sparks, an EP that's probably going to be coming up here. Initially, you said in a few months, but stay tuned. Follow the boys on the socials, and they'll keep you up to date with all of that wonderful news. We even threw in some nostalgic, classic guitar effect pedals in there. We talked about recording at home, and then we also managed to throw in, a chat about a 5150. So that is always good, especially on the Rock and Metal podcast, because that has to come up at least one interview, I think. Or a Kemper profile of a 5150, which is most probably used today than an actual 5150.
You're probably right there, John. I actually use, I've just started using STL Tone Hub, which is extremely good for the price it costs. I mean, Kemper's a lot of money, and they are very good. But if you want something that's going to sort you out quickly, STL Tone Hub is definitely the way forward in home studio recording.
Yeah. Do you just do that for demos, or is that some of that showing up on the record?
No, most of it is just for demos. We do get into the room and like to crank those amps to do the recording. But who knows? With technology and what the future holds, maybe some B-sides in the future we could just do at home. The stuff's getting a lot better and a lot easier to use as well.
Mm-hmm. You would look at it and you would say, "You got no soul."
Possibly. It just depends on how you use it, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Sweet. All right. So we chatted about You Got No Soul, Sylvia, Sparks. Once again, band's website is in the show notes available below, as well as the link to the music video. That concludes my questions. So, boys, thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
No, thanks, John. Thanks to thank you very much for having Catalyst on. Appreciate it.